has expertise in machine learning, data science, visualization, also in the software development of a big data analysis platform. Sir work as a software engineer in machine learning domain, works analysis, Redding, California, currently. Sir has completed MS in Computer Science from University of North Carolina, USA, and he completed his BE in Computer Engineering from Pune University, Maharashtra, India. I welcome you, sir. Sir has done some research in medical applications of artificial intelligence. I welcome you, sir. I will hand over the session to the Ved Paranse sir for the presentation. Sir, please, I request you to start with your session. Hello. Sir is there? Sir? Sir, please start with your presentation.
Okay, hello. Mr. Shreyas Keskar told me that we should wait for 5 minutes. So if it's okay, we can start right now.
Yes, sir, we can start, sir. Sir, I request you to present your screen. It is already presenting.
Shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Hello.
Sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay, so let me start by introducing myself. So I am Ved Paranzape. मी पुण्याचाच आहे, फक्त this presentation will be in English because you know. Uh, so I am a machine learning engineer. I work at a company called Sitecore USA. Uh, so it's based on web content management, and we apply AI in lots of interesting applications. Before this, I studied at MIT Pune, and then I did my master's from University of North Carolina. I worked for a couple of years in a fintech startup, and then I joined Sitecore as a machine learning engineer. Uh, so today I will be talking about medical applications of AI, uh, which is medicine is one of the most important fields affecting human lives in a lot of ways, and AI plays a key role in saving a lot of lives and you know saving detecting diseases well in advance and helping save lives from critical illnesses. Uh, so at any time, whenever any of you has a question, please unmute yourself and feel free to interrupt me. Okay. So today's agenda is I'm going to introduce you to neural networks and which are the basic building blocks of machine learning and artificial intelligence. Uh, then I will give a brief overview of some medical applications that AI has affected, like AI is applied to these fields in medicine. And I'll give you a few case studies also, which will help you understand how exactly machine learning is used in this field. And I'll also give a brief overview of some basic machine learning algorithms. Okay, so let's get started. So let's start with a neuron, what a neuron is. So as you can see, this is a basic computational unit in machine learning. So this neuron is basically it mimics a natural neuron. Like we have millions and millions of neurons in our brains. So this is a simulation of one of such neurons, which helps us, build artificial neural networks. So as you can see, these are the inputs, x1, x2, x3, and based on these inputs, the neuron it uh, it computes, it does its computation, and based on these inputs, it gives a specific output based on a task at hand. Okay. Next slide is it's a neural network. So as we saw in the previous slide, uh, this is one neuron, and then when all these neurons are put together, they act as a neural network. So it's pretty obvious that this neuron is as good as it is, and then once we combine multiple neurons, it adds more complexity to our model and the computations, which helps us solve more complex tasks. uh, these are called hidden layers. So this is the input layer. The inputs are passed in inside. The inputs are passed through the input layer, and then uh, they pass through the hidden layers, and then uh, they uh, they come into the output layer. So all the computation that happens in the entire network and not in just one specific layer. So we will so all the training so the basic of machine learning is that when an input comes in, the neural network initially it's not trained at all. So once an input comes in, uh, n- the the neural network it generates a random output at first, but then once we have good training data, we can train the neural network based on how it's doing, and then it we the data gives it a feedback which helps the hidden layers, train themselves and uh, do the task at hand, learn a task at hand. That's exactly how we do it. So we try one task and then we get a feedback from the task. So it gives us an idea of how well we are doing. So based on that, okay, I'm a little rambling. That's fine. Okay, let's dive into the applications. So AI is used in medicine in these forms. So it is used in diagnosis of a disease. It is used in drug discovery, which I'll walk you guys through it. It is used in treatment. It is used in medical question answering, and it's also used in automatic label extraction. So I'll go briefly in all of these. Okay. So the first one was diagnosis. Diagnosis is, predicting, like, from the given input, predicting if determining if the patient has the disease or doesn't have the disease. So detecting lung cancer from CT scans. This is one of the major, cancer is a very fatal disease, and detecting it early, it helps a lot if the cancer detected early and treated at an early stage. um, Assess cardiac health from electrocardiograms. So if you guys are familiar with Apple Watch or Fitbit, smartwatches, they are so good right at the moment. Like, they have developed so much that you can the Apple Watch is good as an ECG. So it can detect all your health problems, and if if a person is getting a stroke or a heart attack, the Apple Watch, it automatically gets triggered, and then you can know well in advance if there is a problem with your heart. Classify skin lesions from images of the skin. From image of a skin, you classify, like, you get to know if you have a skin disease, or if there's some problem with it. Uh, Identify retinopathy from eye images. uh, Based on the retina scan of your eye, determine if there is some problem with your eye, like a cataract or something. Next. So this is a case study of lung cancer detection. So as you can see, this is an image input. So it is an MRI scan, and uh, this this basically, so the task here is that uh, we are detecting lung cancer from images, bypassing them, like, using a convolutional neural network. So a CNN is called convolutional neural network. As we saw in the previous slides, a neural network, this is a special type of neural network. It is used for it is used for processing images, image data. So the task, okay, I explained the task. So this is a very important application at the moment, and uh, the task here is, the image, it has a label as a 0 or a 1. A 0 means that there is no lung cancer. A 1 means that there is lung cancer in the given image. So based on that, the convolutional neural network, it's trained uh, based on, it's called backpropagation. The algorithm for training a neural network is called backpropagation. So using that, the weights in this neural network are trained so that it can detect lung cancer accurately. The next case study is diagnosis of skin disease. So this is a case study. This is based on a research paper by Google. So they got 26 categories of skin diseases, and they classified it using image data and using medical records. So this is a very special type of application of AI, and a lot of research is going on in this feel like it's basically multimodal machine learning, which means that we have an input image and also a medical record, which is it's in the form of text. So when two different types of data, that is image and text, are combined in a neural network, that's much harder to interpret and combine both the data together. Uh, but this task, it did exactly that, and it classified 26 skin diseases with a very high accuracy, and uh, it 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 almost did as well as a dermatologist would. So yeah, that's the significance of it. Okay, challenges and concerns about diagnosis. So as we saw, like in this image, this is a negative image, but there are positive images also. So uh, the number of positive images, they are very small, and then that leads to data imbalance problems. So the more or less the amount of positive examples and negative examples for training a neural network, they uh, need to be close by, like comparable, in equal proportions. So this is one of the major problems in data related to disease classification. uh, there is a, a, a scarcity of good labeled data, which is that's because you need skilled uh, you know s- skilled radiologists to analyze the images of lung cancer, and then determine if that given image is a positive or a negative for lung cancer. And then based on these good labeled data, we need to train our model. So that's one of the major concerns. Choice of evaluation metric. So uh, if it's just accuracy, that we are considering as an evaluation metric. So accuracy can be misleading because let's say there are, in a collection of 100 images, we have just uh, six positive images. That is, six images have lung cancer, and uh, the rest of the 94 images, they have no lung cancer. So if a model just predicts everything as no lung cancer, even then it gets a 94% accuracy because it just got those six positive examples wrong. So that's why the accuracy is, it's 94% accurate model. So which is like completely misleading, because so that's why we need to come up with better metrics. So the first problem was data imbalance. So the first solution for data imbalance is data augmentation. So data augmentation, it basically takes images and it transforms them. It rotates those images in different ways, in different orientations, so that the the model can learn a rich feature set, and then we have a lot of data also. So that solves the data imbalance problem. So uh, we rotate and modify the positive images which contain the lung cancer, which are in a short supply, as compared to the negative images. Use of metrics such as precision, recall, and F score. So I have written down the formula for precision. So precision is true positive upon true positive plus false positive, which means that precision, precision. It's basically, the definition is that out of all the examples labeled as positive, how many were really positive. Uh, so as you can see, this very critically analyzes. It's uh, it very critically analyzes our results, uh, considering only the positive examples. Uh, Whereas a recall, it's true positive upon true positive plus false negative, which is out of all positive examples, how many did we classify as positive? So in all Like let's say in the previous scenario, we had 6 positive examples, out of which, if we classify all 6 as positive, which means that we have 100% recall. But if we consider, if we classify just 3 correctly as positive, so that drops our recall directly to 50%, which is something to think about. So that's why we consider precision recall and F score. F score is a combination of these two formulae um, during result analysis of the model, performance analysis. The next, it's innovative methods of data labeling, which solves the problem of uh, data imbalance also, and lack of good labeled data. So I'll explain the innovative methods in the later section. So drug development, this is another very important application of AI. So the drug development, like we are all suffering. We are in the mid of a pandemic. So the drug development, uh, it it takes it follows these 3 steps. So first is identify the target molecules. Second is discover effective drugs, and third is speed up clinical trials. So I'll explain what each step does. We'll go point by point. There's a lot of content on this slide. Um, so identify target molecules. The first one is understanding the biological origin of a disease pathways as well as its resistance mechanisms. So this deals with finding what exactly caused the disease, like the virus, what is the structure of the virus. Identify good targets, typically spike proteins, for treating the disease. So uh, the spike proteins, they are modified in some way and then planted in the human body in the form of a vaccine. So that's how vaccines are created. Large amounts of data are available for discovering viable target pathways. Uh, you know, for accurate, detect accurate finding out of these spike proteins takes a large amount of data, which is available in the medical community. It's just untapped. Like we need good algorithms and you know, good quality data to really automate all this stuff. So the challenge is integrating the high number of variety of data sources and then find the relevant patterns. So as I mentioned, there is a huge wide variety and there is lots of data, but it's just that uh, we need to integrate this big data, and then employ algorithms to process this big data. Machine learning algorithms can more easily analyze the available data and can even learn to automatically identify good target proteins. So that's the gist of identify target molecules, which is identifying the target proteins, and then next process, the further process. The next step is discover drug candidates. So find a compound that can interact with the identified target molecule in the desired way. So the target protein, the spike protein, is to be modified in some way, which will, it will help the body to develop antibodies against that spike protein. Uh, the current softwares are inaccurate and produce a lot of bad suggestions. So uh, in this step, we what we are doing is we are finding that compound that is gonna interact with the protein, and then it will give us the actual vaccine. Um, Sorry. Machine learning algorithms can learn to predict the suitability of molecules based on structural fingerprints and molecular descriptors. So, based on that, machine learning algorithms, when given the right input, they can predict if the given molecule is gonna be useful, and the given compound, it's gonna properly react with the molecule to give us the desired. the desired compound. It skims through millions of potential molecules and filters all of them down to the best options. So, as you all must be aware, there are a lot of candidates in drugs, and drilling down and finding the best candidate, that's what AI can do. So once we have a lot of computing power, like on the cloud, we can deploy algorithms to skim through all the data, and then just combine all the data together, process it, and then give us the best result that's going to be useful for drug discovery, speed up clinical trials, uh, ensuring the correct distribution for groups of trial participants. So as you know, in during the testing, testing of the the vaccine for coronavirus, uh, they split the population. Like, let's say we have 100 people, and then we split it into 50 randomly, completely random. So and then based on and then we give a vaccine, the actual vaccine, to one group, and then we give a placebo to the other group. So that's how we truly know that if a vaccine is working or not. So in this separation of the population, there can be errors. So, like, let's say some patient in one of the groups had a pre-existing condition, and then that person, because he was given the vaccine, the condition might have worsened. So that can be found out with the help of machine learning. It helps us to find patterns and pre-existing conditions, if there are any, and how that would affect the testing process. Algorithms can help identify patterns that separate good candidates from bad. Okay, yeah, that we already went through. Sorry, I'm just gonna come back here and see if okay. Okay, no problem. Okay, we'll continue. Speed of clinical trials. Okay, the personalized treatment, that's another big application of machine learning and AI for medicine. So, personalized treatment. The problem here, I'm going to describe the problem first, and then the solution. So, first, the problem: unique variations of human genomes. So, human genes, they, like, we all know that we have some genetic qualities, and then that's going to affect how what we are susceptible to, what kind of disease we might get, what kind of disorder we might get. Unique characteristics and habits can affect health. Gene mutations can lead to life-threatening diseases such as cancer. So uh, it's so possible that diabetes is it's usually hereditary. So it's so possible that based on your ancestry or your parents' health information, it is possible to detect such disorders well in advance. So based on these comparisons between your ancestry and your own medical records, uh, it is you can predict if a person will contract a disease at a certain point of time. So that's very useful for preventive medicine, and preventive medicine can save lives based on medical records and readings. So if we detect a disease early, it can be cured early. Like, we can take preventive measures to at least mitigate the disease. Personalized treatment, the solution. So I explained the problem here. Now this is the solution. It combine data from various sources, example medical records, fitness trackers. So this is actually being done by a company which is owned by Google. So the name of the company is let me remember. It's called Verily Life Sciences. So that company, it so as you know, Google has acquired Fitbit, which it creates smartwatches and health trackers, which is a fitness tracker. So it and Google also has Very Life Sciences, which has medical records of patients and what sort of diseases exist. So Google is in the process of combining these two types of data from fitness trackers and medical records together, so that it gets a better understanding of the customers and not the customers, sorry, the patients, and that's how it's helping further the use of AI in personalized treatment and medicine. It predicts if a person will be affected well in advance. As I said, it's very useful. So based on your ancestry, if you feed this ancestry and then train a model, a machine learning model based on this data, it can predict if a person is going to be affected by a disease, analyze patterns in patients and adjust treatment. So uh, it can AI can detect clusters or patterns. Like, let's say one of the patients was showing certain characteristics, and then another person comes in and um, you know you can sort of cluster them together and treat them as a cluster. So that way you might expect that those two people, since they have the same characteristics, they can show the same symptoms or same diseases. Predict outcome of a treatment, that we already went through. Cross reference similar patients and compare treatments and outcomes. Yeah, so this is a very important point. So uh, cross-reference similar patients, which we discuss, and like creation of the clusters of patients, and then compare treatments and outcomes. So based on one, like, let's say person A was suffering from a disease, and then he got some treatment. Uh, and what was the outcome that we know? And when person B comes in, he's very similar to person A in terms of medical conditions. We can predict if uh, the treatment given to person A is would be applicable to person B also, and what will be the outcome of the same. Uh, okay, so this was a good segue into two of the most important and very basic machine learning algorithms, which I'll be explaining next. So we talked about clustering. So there's a quote called, like, all of birds of a feather flock together. So which means that similar things, they can be placed together. So it assumes that this k nearest neighbors, that's an algorithm in machine learning. It assumes that similar things exist in close proximity. It is a supervised learning algorithm. So what does supervised learning mean? So there are two types of learnings. There are two types of machine learning algorithms. One is supervised learning algorithm. One is non-supervised learning algorithm. So a supervised learning algorithm, it has good labeled data. So like, let's say, given an image, uh, the label can be does that image contain a lung cancer or it does not. So that's called supervised learning. So when a model is fed the the input data and also the label, that's called supervised learning. Let's go next. Okay, so this is the k nearest neighbor algorithm. Based on these inputs, so these are the different, like, let's say, we can treat these as positive and negative examples in lung cancer. So let's say the blue is positive and the red is negative. um, and based on this data, this is a spatial representation of the data in a smaller a smaller dimension. Like, data can be present in lots and lots of dimensions, like, I don't know, 100,000, but we have compressed the data so that we can represent it in two dimensions. um, so this green is an observation that we would like to uh, classify as having lung cancer or not having lung cancer. So um, we can have k, which is the k nearest neighbor, the k as 3. So the three most close observations, they give a vote as to if the given observation is going to be positive or negative. So if k is 3, it represents this inner circle. So if k is 3, we have two negative examples in close proximity and one positive example in close proximity. So by majority of vote, we get this example as negative for lung cancer. But if k is 5, which means that we are going to consider 5 closest neighbors. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So based on this, this outer circle marks the boundary, and the output changes. So this green dot is going to be classified as positive for lung cancer because we have 3 members voting as positive and just 2 for negative. So that's why uh, the 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 parameter k, that's very important in k nearest neighbors. Um, we're going to talk about clustering. So previous was k nearest neighbors and clustering. These are two very similar algorithms, and uh, let's dive into clustering now. Unsupervised learning, it is an unsupervised learning method. So as we saw, the previous k nearest neighbor was a supervised one. So there are going to be uh, images and a label which it marks it as positive or negative. But in clustering, there is no labeled data. It's sort of just images clustered. The images are fed to the algorithm, and the algorithm, uh, it's gonna uh, it's gonna determine if it's gonna cluster together similar looking images for like in this case, similar looking images together. There are different types of clustering. It's called agglomerative clustering, and the other one is divisive. So I'm going to explain the second one, k-means clustering. So the basic task of this algorithm is to create clusters of similar examples, like similar data. It's going to be clustered together in some clusters. So k initial means, so this is step one. K initial means, in this case, k is the 3 because that's the input that we give. So in this case, that we have given the input, the number of clusters we want is just 3, are randomly generated within the data domain shown in color. So the first step means that we are gonna initialize 3 random mean values among this entire data set. So these 3 colors are just randomly assigned to 3 separate clusters, and then the second step is k clusters are created by associating every observation with the nearest neighbor. So k clusters are created by associating every observation with the nearest mean. Okay, so as we saw in the previous example, this was the mean, and then uh, each other point apart from these 3 circles, they are going to be computed for the nearest mean. So as you can see, this point is assigned to this cluster. All these green points are assigned to the green color, center, like the green circle cluster, and all the blue to the blue. Um in the third step, the centroid of each of the k clusters becomes the new mean. So as you can see, each the means are recalculated for each of these clusters. So the red cluster has 2 different data points in it now. So the centroid of these 2 points is going to be calculated, and that's going to be the new mean for this cluster. Steps 2 and 3 are repeated until convergence has been reached. Okay, so clustering. So this procedure, it's repeated multiple times until the centroid, that is the centroid for each cluster, it does not, like, until it stabilizes. This procedure is repeated. So the means are calculated. The data points are assigned to clusters which are closest to by mean. like by distance to the mean, and then uh, this process stops once the clusters, like the cluster centroids, the means do not change in two consecutive runs, iterations. So that was k-means cluster and k-means clustering and k-nearest neighbors algorithms. So we come to medical question answering, which is another interesting application of AI to medicine. So uh, the task here is that given a question like what is the drug for SIGA used for, based on this, what would be the answer? So this is exactly what Google does. When you ask Google something, it goes in a bunch of documents. So this paragraph here on the right side, this is document, and then Google searches for all these documents and gets the closest answer. So as you can see, reduced blood glucose level. So what does drug for SIGA do? It reduces blood glucose level. That is the answer to this question. So this can be automated with the help of AI. So how we're gonna look at that now. Uh, BERT is so as BERT is Google's model. It's basically a natural language processing model. When you give it natural language data, it gets trained for that specific task. uh, in this case, the task is question answering. So given a question and a passage, you have to find the answer to that question based on that passage. So this is the training data, and the labels, they are the token numbers in the passage. Like reduce is this word right here. Sorry. Reduce blood glucose level. So reduce is the 11th token from the beginning of the passage, and uh, levels is the 14th token from the beginning of the passage. So this model is it amazingly works. It like you 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 will not be able to imagine that or believe that such a simple hack works for training this model. And Google, in fact, it uses BERT in production right now. So when you search a query on Google, it goes through BERT, which is the natural language processing model. It analyzes a bunch of you know uh, text documents, and then it returns the query. So previously, Google did not have deep learning, like machine learning, in place in the form of BERT. So it had different rule-based algorithms. But when deep learning and machine learning really took over, that's when they built BERT. And recently, they have, like, I think it was just last year in 2020, they introduced BERT in Google search. So that's a big step. And the best part of this application is that it's not very susceptible to regulation. So regulation, it's it's a big thing to consider while building a startup and algorithm for medical purpose, because lives are at stake in medical applications. So you cannot just deploy an algorithm in the lab. You need approval from the government, from the healthcare agencies, and then once you get that approval, you can deploy it. But this is a very practical and non-intrusive application of AI to medicine, because you're just asking a question here and getting an answer. I mean, nothing is going to be directly affected. No life is going to be harmed, if even if the model gives one or two wrong answers. So this automatic label extraction. Uh, this is another very important application of machine learning. Medical image labeling requires expert knowledge, like we saw in the lung cancer example. Lots and lots of data is required for training the model to correctly predict if the given image has cancer or not. Uh, and it requires a lot of expert knowledge, and it's very time and resource consuming manual task. uh, a radiologist has to go through each and every report and then blah blah blah. Opportunity for automatic automation with NLP. So natural language processing, its short form is NLP. There is a huge opportunity for NLP to automate, the label generation uh, for training the convolutional neural network. Uh, so automatic label extraction is this is the process diagram for that. A radiology report that's going to be generated by the radiologist for a given image. So, like, let's say heart size normal and lungs are clear, no edema, no pneumonia, no effusion. That's the report that was generated for a specific patient. When this is fed to an automatic annotation system, it spits out a label. So there's no mass, there's no pneumonia, there's no edema. So which means that this patient is completely healthy. So based on, as we saw, based on the radiology report, which is in text format, we are generating labels automatically, which saves a lot of human labor, and it's fast and efficient. So I'll explain the process that is followed for label extraction briefly. Build The first step is build a vocabulary of synonyms. Uh, so I'll explain this step later. So the second step is detect mention of an observation, like we saw in the previous example. There is no mention of like these words are mentioned, the diseases are mentioned, but then it's not present. So that's the detection of the mention of an observation, and the third step is determine presence or absence of observation. Uh, so the first step is medical synonym, dictionary generation. So in this step, we build vocabularies for medical terms and diseases. Um, and the second should be able to handle direct and indirect relations between mentioned observations. So um, this means that pneumonia. This is a report. Heart size normal and lungs are clear. No edema or infection. No effusion. So we are looking for whether pneumonia is mentioned in the report. As you can see, there is no direct mention of pneumonia, but uh, pneumonia can also be stated as an infection. So we need to build a vocabulary, a taxonomy in which uh, we look for close words like pneumonia, infection, infectious process, and infectious. There are lots and lots of synonyms to various medical terms, and then that's what we bake the understanding into a model, and that model should be able to correctly understand that even if pneumonia is not directly mentioned, it should be able to guess. It should be able to understand that one specific word also means pneumonia, and then it should be able to take the action accordingly. The second step is detect mention of an observation. We already saw that, and now the third process is determine presence or absence of an observation. Uh, Presence or absence, understanding, that's the last process. In so in this process, it can be rule based natural language processing or deep learning model based natural language processing. uh, I'll explain the rule based NLP first. The first So in this, the left effusion with adjacent I'm not gonna pronounce that because that's pretty hard. Cardiomegaly without overt edema is edema present or absent. So we can generate pattern recognition or regular expression, um rule based. So if no comes before a disease, like a condition, most probably it's not going to be present. So the patient is not suffering from edema. So no blank or edema, which means that no is going to be applicable to this blank and also edema. Without blank edema, no evidence of edema. All these things mean that edema is absent. Uh, this is the rule-based approach to detecting the presence and absence of a disease, and the uh, deep learning model-based NLP approach is how we saw in the BERT example. So in that case, BERT or a similar natural language processing model will be trained to automatically generate a label based on the given input report to generate observations like labels, which can be directly used for uh, model training for disease detection. Okay, that's all I have. Um, we can start the questions if you guys want.
Yes, participants, do you have any questions?
Uh, is anyone speaking? I am not hearing you.
Yes, sir, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me, sir?
Sorry, I'm not able to hear you. Can you type your question in the chat and I'll answer it? Any questions, anyone? Okay, I got a question. What benefits you could see for a country like India? Uh, okay, uh, I would say, since in a country like India we have so many people, and then the very basic step would be collection of good quality data. So as we all know, in the small villages and small places in India, there aren't a lot many trained doctors. So that's one of the major problems, uh, which unfortunately due to which we are losing a lot of lives. So the basic step would be data collection, going in those villages and getting the good quality data, and then running that data through good quality algorithms to uh, get some meaning out of them, and put that data to good use. Thank you. But technology is also difficult to reach these people. Yes, that's true. That's true. So that's why data recording and data gathering, that's one of the major problems in India. And since we have this much population, we can put that population also to good use. We can get volunteers or even pay people to go and gather good quality medical data.
Hello.
I have another question. What steps are followed in drug discovery? Uh, I'll go back to my slides for that question. Okay, so drug discovery, it's what we mentioned. Uh, we have a spike protein, and then we modify that spike protein. Uh, and this you know, finding of these molecules which are going to interact correctly, like very well with the spike protein. That's one of the tasks that machine learning can automate. So that's what we went through. Oh, you are asking in development of AI for specifically for uh, drug discovery. Okay, good question. One of the fields that's in research right now is reinforcement learning, which is a very advanced kind of machine learning, and it's basically generic kind of AI they're trying to build. So based on given combination, there can be millions and millions of combinations of a given spike protein and the given molecule which are going to interact together. So there can be multiple combinations and multiple pathways that need to be explored in order to get the best kind of combination. So to reduce the search space of this entire combinations, that's where AI can play a big role. That's where AI plays a big role, but it's still in early stages because reinforcement learning, it's not very sophisticated at the moment, and that's one of the major research areas going on right now. Thank you, uh, Mrs. Kulkarni. Do we have more questions? Sorry, there's something wrong with my on my side with the sound. I cannot hear any of you, so it's good that we have the chat and then we can communicate. Okay, we have another questions. What different companies working in medical application by AI? Okay. Um, So far, the biggest company is here in the Bay Area. It's Verily Life Sciences, which is a Google-owned company that like. I went through what the company does. It combines data from various sources and helps predict. Open DeepMind is one of the major players in medical technology. There is couple of startups which uh, analyze images of the eye, and then that's one of the indicators of diabetes, which is very strange to hear, but then it somehow works. There are startups doing that kind of stuff, so they get the image of your the retina, and then that's how they determine if a person has diabetes or not. We have a question: how is it going to help to make medical treatment cost effective? Um, Use of AI. Okay, a good question. So, uh, as we know, to to diagnose a disease, that's a very resource intensive process. We need trained clinicians and trained doctors, trained radiologists, trained dermatologists to go through whatever medical data or records that the patients have, and then that's a very tedious process which can be automated, not end to end completely, because again AI is ethically it's on the borderline, it's on the fence. So that's that's why it cannot be automated end to end. But it can certainly play some roles which help assist the doctors in their task. So that's so the lesser the amount of resources and time a doctor has to spend on the diagnosis and the various other processes, that's where AI can play a part and reduce the costs. Thank you.
Yes, participants, do you have any questions? Participants, do you have any questions? Okay, thank you very much, sir, for nice and wonderful informative session conducted by you. Sir has uh, given us the major area applications descriptions of AI for medical
Any more questions?
applications, and sir has covered some major applications of medical areas like disease diagnosis, then drug discovery, then also AI solutions for the personalized treatment. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for the
I think that
beautiful.
it is not audible, I think, sir, to him.
Yes, madam.
There is problem.
Problem with the speaker on their
Yeah,
side.
yeah. From their side. Okay, no
Yes,
problem.
yes, madam.
Okay, okay. You can declare, madam, then session is over, madam.
Okay, now this session is over. Um,
Next session is as usual exactly at 12 o'clock.
Okay, participants, you can join our next session